The stars of the Andorran Alliance were fading. Across the wide and endless galaxy, suns that had burned for billions of years began to dim without reason. First came the slow cooling of outer planets, then entire systems turned dark in a matter of weeks. Worlds once filled with light became silent and cold. Scientists from every member world struggled to understand the cause, but each answer led only to more fear. The Andorran Alliance was an old coalition of 12 great civilizations. They had existed for thousands of years, sharing knowledge and keeping peace across hundreds of star systems. Their fleets were strong. Their technology could bend gravity and open gates through space. Yet none of their great inventions could stop the dying of the stars. The problem was not a single star or a single world. It was a sickness that moved like a shadow through the galaxy. In the council hall of the central world, Helenar, leaders from all 12 species gathered. The room was a giant circle of crystal and metal, open to the dark sky. From the outside, the hall shone like a bright gem. Inside, the mood was heavy and silent. Council Speaker Vaylon, a tall being with smooth silver skin, stood at the center. His voice carried across the chamber. "Our suns fail one by one," Vaylon said. "If we do nothing, all life within the Alliance will freeze. We must act." Representatives from every world spoke in turn. Elder Torish of the Scythan spoke of failed experiments to restart stars. Admiral Kex of the Voran fleet described how entire colonies were being evacuated. Dr. Sarath, the leading scientist of the Malari, showed numbers that chilled every heart. Within 50 standard years, more than half of the Alliance's stars would die. Travel between systems would become impossible. Civilization itself would collapse. "We have tried every known method," Dr. Sarath said. "Energy transfers, fusion injections, quantum stabilizers. Nothing slows the decay. It is as if the stars themselves are being drained by an invisible hand." The council fell silent. For the first time in centuries, no one had a solution. Among the gathered leaders was Siora Then, a young envoy from the water world Near-Ale. She listened carefully as the elder beings debated. Her bright blue eyes reflected both fear and determination. Siora was not the most experienced diplomat, but she had read reports from the far edges of the Alliance, strange signals, unexplainable bursts of energy, and rumors of a young species that thrived despite their small size. A name kept appearing in old exploration files: humans. During a short break in the meeting, Siora approached her mentor, Council Speaker Vaylon. "There is one path we have not tried," she said in a low voice. "The humans of Earth." Vaylon turned his silver gaze toward her. "Humans? They are barely a starfaring race. What help could they offer that we, with all our science, cannot provide?" "They survive in chaos," Siora replied. "Our scholars describe them as reckless but also clever. They solve problems in ways that defy logic. Perhaps they see what we cannot." Vaylon remained silent, considering her words. The idea of asking help from a young and unpredictable species seemed almost foolish. Yet desperation had a way of breaking pride. When the council resumed, Vaylon called for calm. "We face the end of all we know," he said. "No world can stand alone. I propose we open contact with the humans of Earth. Their methods are untested, but their minds are different. Perhaps difference is what we need." The chamber erupted in voices. Some leaders argued that humans were too primitive. Others feared that revealing the Alliance's weakness would invite danger. Admiral Kex warned that humans were known for bold exploration and might use the crisis to demand power. But Dr. Sarath supported the idea. "We have reached the limits of our understanding," the scientist admitted. "A fresh perspective may reveal what centuries of study have missed." Debate stretched for hours. Outside the crystal walls, the stars of Helenar burned bright, but even they showed small signs of dimming. At last, a vote was called. One by one, the 12 members cast their decisions. The result was narrow but clear. The Alliance would send a small delegation to Earth. Siora was chosen as part of the envoy team. Her sharp mind and calm nature made her an ideal bridge between species. Alongside her were Dr. Sarath, Admiral Kex, and 2 skilled pilots from the Voran fleet. They would travel aboard the Luminous Path, a sleek vessel capable of folding space and crossing light years in days. Their mission was simple but heavy with meaning: reach Earth, explain the crisis, and request help. Preparations began immediately. Engineers loaded the ship with star maps, samples of the dying suns, and detailed records of the plague. Alliance symbols of peace were engraved on the outer hull. Before departure, the council gathered to send them off. Phelan placed a silver crest on Siora's shoulder. "You carry the hopes of many worlds," he said. "Speak with honesty. Listen with courage." As the luminous path rose from the shining docks of Helenar, Siora watched the fading stars. She wondered how humans would react to such a plea. Would they laugh at the request of ancient civilizations? Would they fear the visitors from the sky? Or would they, as the report suggested, embrace the challenge with daring hearts? The journey through folded space was both beautiful and unsettling. The ship glided through tunnels of shifting light where colors bent like liquid and time stretched thin. Siora spent hours in the observation chamber, studying the stars beyond. Each glowing point could be a dying sun, another system slipping into darkness. The thought tightened her chest. Entire civilizations depended on this mission. Failure was not an option. Dr. Sareth joined her often. The Mylari scientist floated gracefully in the low gravity, their translucent skin shimmering. "Do you believe humans will help us?" Sareth asked one evening. "I do not know," Siora admitted. "But I believe they will try. They have little, yet they dream of much. That spirit may be what we need." Admiral Kex, always direct, offered a more cautious view. "Humans are unpredictable. Their history shows conflict as well as cooperation. We must be ready for anything." Days passed in quiet anticipation. Finally, the blue-green sphere of Earth appeared on the main screen. Oceans reflected sunlight like polished glass. White clouds drifted across continents. Compared to the grand cities of the Alliance, the planet looked simple and young. Yet Siora felt a strange warmth as she gazed upon it. This small world, circling an ordinary star, might hold the key to saving a galaxy. The luminous path slowed as it entered Earth's orbit. Messages of peaceful intent were sent in every known human language. Lights from the surface shimmered like tiny constellations, proof of a thriving people. Soon signals returned, a cautious greeting, a request for dialogue, a promise to listen. Inside the ship, Siora felt the weight of the moment. She thought of the countless lives waiting in cold darkness, the fading suns and the fear that haunted every world. Hope, fragile but alive, stirred in her heart. Perhaps this young species, unknown to the stars, would hear their call. Perhaps the humans would see not strangers, but fellow travelers in the vast and dangerous universe. The delegation prepared to descend. Their path was uncertain, their mission almost impossible. Yet for the first time in many cycles, Siora allowed herself a small, quiet smile. Help might come from the most unexpected place. The luminous path turned toward Earth, carrying with it the desperate hopes of 12 ancient civilizations. In the dark void beyond, countless stars continued to fade, but in Siora's mind a new light began to grow. The luminous path drifted silently above Earth as night covered half the planet. Blue oceans sparkled in moonlight. Thin ribbons of city lights stretched across the continents like glowing rivers. Inside the ship, the delegation prepared for their first meeting with humanity. Siora Then stood near the main window, her heart steady but her thoughts full of questions. Humans had answered the Alliance's greeting with careful words. They had invited the visitors to a neutral place called Geneva, a city near a great lake on Earth's surface. Messages promised peace and safety, but also strict rules. The humans wished to meet face to face, not only through machines. Admiral Kex adjusted the silver crest on his chest and frowned. "Their leaders insist on a ground meeting," he said. "Risky. We cannot predict their security measures." Dr. Serath floated lightly beside him. "They are showing trust," the scientist replied. "We must show the same. If we stay in orbit, they may think we fear them or hide secrets." Siora agreed. "This mission is built on hope," she said softly. "Let us begin with courage." The next morning, the luminous path lowered through the thin blue sky. Clouds swirled around the ship's shining hull. People on the surface gathered in open spaces, pointing upward as a silver light crossed the heavens. Cameras flashed. News channels carried every detail. Across the planet, billions watched and waited. The ship settled on a wide landing field near the lake. Lines of human vehicles surrounded the area, lights blinking in the cool air. Soldiers in dark uniforms stood at a distance, their weapons lowered but ready. A group of leaders waited on a raised platform. At their center stood a woman with short black hair and sharp eyes. Her name was Dr. Lena Ortiz, an astrophysicist and special advisor to the United Nations. She had helped write Earth's first message to the stars. Ciora led the delegation down the glowing ramp. The air smelled of water and green earth, a pleasant change from the filtered air of starships. She stepped forward and placed her hand over her heart, the traditional Alliance greeting. "We come in peace," she said in clear standard, a language prepared for first contact. Dr. Ortiz bowed slightly. "Welcome to Earth," she replied. "I am honored to meet you." Her voice was calm but curious, like someone eager to solve a puzzle. Inside a secure hall, humans and aliens sat around a long glass table. Translation devices hummed softly, carrying words between species. Ciora explained the crisis: the sudden death of stars, the mysterious energy drain, the failure of every known science to stop it. Images of fading suns and frozen planets filled the screens behind her. The human leaders listened without interruption. Some faces showed disbelief, others deep worry. When Ciora finished, silence filled the room. Finally, Dr. Ortiz leaned forward. "You have tried energy transfers, fusion injections, and quantum stabilizers?" she asked. "Yes," Dr. Sarath answered. "All failed. The decay follows no known pattern." Ortiz tapped her fingers against the table. "On Earth, we study chaotic systems. Storms, earthquakes, unstable stars. Sometimes a small change in energy creates a chain reaction. Your report suggests something is pulling energy out faster than natural physics allows." Admiral Kex nodded. "Exactly. But we cannot find the source." Dr. Ortiz's eyes brightened. "Then perhaps the key is not to find the source first, but to outpace it. If we can inject more energy into a dying star than the drain removes, we may trigger a restart before collapse." Several alien delegates exchanged uncertain looks. "Impossible," said Elder Torish through the translator. "The energy required is beyond calculation." "Maybe not," Ortiz replied. She pulled up a diagram from a small tablet. "My team has been working on a theoretical device called a quantum pulse array. It uses folded space to deliver a sudden, concentrated burst of energy. We planned it only for small stars as a test of advanced fusion. But if we combine your power sources with our design, we might scale it to stellar size," the aliens murmured among themselves. Dr. Sarath studied the diagram with fascination. "Your design is unorthodox," Sarath admitted. "It breaks several accepted limits of energy transfer." Ortiz smiled faintly. "Humans break limits. It is what we do." Admiral Kex raised a cautious hand. "Even if this array works, building one large enough will take resources and time we may not have." "Then we start small," Ortiz said. "Choose a single dying star on the edge of your territory. We build a prototype together. If it fails, we lose nothing we have not already lost. If it succeeds, we gain hope." The room grew quiet again. Ciora watched the human scientist closely. There was no arrogance in her words, only a steady determination. This was the spirit Ciora had read about, the human refusal to surrender. Council Speaker Veylan, who had joined the meeting by hologram, finally spoke from the projection sphere. "You propose to ignite a star with untested technology, created by a species new to interstellar travel. It is dangerous." Ortiz met his glowing eyes without fear. "It is dangerous to do nothing," she said simply. The Alliance delegates withdrew to a private chamber to discuss. Some argued that trusting humans with advanced energy systems was reckless. Others feared that failure would waste precious time. Ciora listened as voices rose and fell. At last she stepped forward. "We called them because we had no answers," she said. "They offer an answer. We must try," Dr. Sarath added. "Their method may appear crude, but brilliance often hides in simple ideas." Admiral Kex, though cautious, finally nodded. "A controlled test carries acceptable risk." "I vote yes," one by one the others agreed. When they returned to the humans, Ciora gave the decision. "The Alliance accepts. We will attempt a joint mission using your quantum pulse array." Dr. Ortiz allowed herself a small smile of relief. "Then we begin at once." Plans formed quickly. The chosen star was a small red dwarf on the far edge of Alliance space, already losing heat. It was close enough for fast travel, but far enough to avoid harm if the experiment failed. Human engineers shared their designs for the array, while Alliance scientists provided energy crystals and dimensional stabilizers. For the next several weeks, Geneva became a place of wonder. Alien engineers walked beside human technicians, comparing tools and sharing ideas. Children waved from safe viewing areas as towering Voran pilots moved carefully through city streets. News channels showed images of humans teaching aliens to use simple hand gestures, while Alliance scientists explained the mathematics of folded space to eager human students. Ciora spent long hours with Dr. Ortiz, translating complex equations and learning Earth's many languages. She admired the scientist's restless mind. Ortiz often stayed awake late into the night, adjusting calculations and testing new models. "Do you ever doubt?" Ciora asked one evening as they stood on a balcony overlooking the lake. Ortiz gazed at the stars. "Of course I doubt," she said. "But doubt only means the problem is worth solving. Fear keeps us alive. Curiosity moves us forward." Ciora thought of the fading suns across the galaxy and felt a flicker of hope. At last, the prototype was complete. A new ship, the Dawnbringer, was built by combining human metalwork and Alliance energy cores. Its heart held the first quantum pulse array large enough to affect a star. Human pilots trained alongside alien navigators. Admiral Kex would command the mission. Dr. Ortiz would oversee the array. Ciora would serve as liaison between species. The night before launch, a ceremony was held on the landing field. Flags of Earth fluttered beside the banners of 12 worlds. Speaker Valen's hologram addressed the gathered crowd. "Tonight we witness more than science," he said. "We witness unity. In the face of darkness, we choose cooperation over fear." Dr. Ortiz stepped forward to speak. "The universe is vast," she said. "No single species can solve every mystery. But together, we can try." Cheers rose from both humans and aliens. For a brief moment, the cold threat of dying stars felt far away. As dawn broke, the Dawnbringer lifted into the sky, its engines glowing with human and alien power. Ciora watched Earth shrink below them, a small blue world full of daring hearts. Ahead lay a distant red star, a dying light waiting for their first attempt at salvation. She took a deep breath. The mission was dangerous, but for the first time since the crisis began, she believed the galaxy had a chance. Humanity had offered not only technology, but something even stronger: hope. The Dawnbringer sailed through the folded corridors of space, leaving Earth far behind. Outside the thick viewing windows, streaks of colored light stretched like rivers of fire. Ciora then stood at the observation deck and watched the endless glow. Every breath reminded her of the heavy duty they carried. Somewhere ahead waited a dying red dwarf, and with it the first test of the human quantum pulse array. Admiral Kex moved beside her, his scaled armor reflecting the lights of passing stars. "The human engineers work fast," he said in his steady, deep voice. "Faster than I expected." "They have urgency," Ciora replied. "They know time is the one thing none of us can create." Behind them, human and alien crew members worked side by side. Engineers from Earth checked the pulse array's power conduits. Varan pilots adjusted navigation codes. Mylari scientists tested energy crystals for stability. The air was alive with the hum of engines and quiet voices in many languages. Dr. Lena Ortiz spent most hours inside the core chamber, fine-tuning the array. Her eyes were bright with focus, and her dark hair was tied back to keep it from the tools she carried. Ciora often found her surrounded by glowing screens and floating models of star systems. "How is the array?" Ciora asked during one visit. Ortiz wiped her hands and smiled faintly. "Better than yesterday, not perfect yet." "We need perfect." "You sound confident," Ciora said. "I'm terrified," Ortiz admitted. "But fear keeps me sharp. Confidence comes from good numbers, not feelings." Ciora admired that honesty. Among the Alliance, leaders often hid their fear behind calm words. Humans, she noticed, carried fear openly and still moved forward. After 4 days in folded space, the Dawnbringer reached the outer edge of the target system. The dying red dwarf appeared on the main screen, a small dim sphere surrounded by fading light. Its planets were cold and lifeless. Long streams of gas drifted from its surface like wisps of smoke. "This star has less than 1 standard year before full collapse," Dr. Sarath reported. "If the array works, we will know within hours." Admiral Kex gave a firm nod. "Prepare the sequence." The crew moved quickly. Human pilots guided the ship to a safe orbit. Alien technicians activated energy stabilizers. Dr. Ortiz and her team adjusted the quantum pulse array, checking every connection twice. Ciora stood near the central console, ready to translate if needed. Then the unexpected happened. As the ship settled into orbit, alarms sounded. Gravity sensors flashed red. A sudden storm of magnetic waves erupted from the star, pushing against the ship's shields. The Dawnbringer shook violently, lights flickering across the bridge. "Unstable field detected," shouted a Voran pilot. "Orbit is collapsing." Admiral Kex gripped the command rail. Compensate with thrusters. The alien pilots worked quickly, but the magnetic storm was stronger than predicted. Calculations showed the orbit would decay within minutes. Dr. Sarath warned that if the ship moved too far, the pulse array would not reach full effect. Human pilot Marcus Hale, a tall man with sharp eyes, stepped forward. "Request permission to switch to manual," he said. Kex turned, surprised. "Manual?" "The gravitational tides are unpredictable." "Exactly," Hale replied. "Your systems can't react fast enough. Humans fly storms on Earth all the time." "Let me try." Ciora looked at Kex. She could see the conflict in the Admiral's eyes. Finally, Kex gave a single nod. "Do it!" Hale slid into the pilot seat, his hands gripping the controls. He shut down part of the automatic stabilizers and guided the ship with careful bursts of power. The Dawnbringer shuddered as magnetic waves struck, but Hale moved with instinct. He tilted the nose of the ship, released a short engine burst, and allowed the gravity pull to spin them into a safer path. Orbit stabilized. The Voran pilot confirmed after tense seconds. "Manual correction successful," Dr. Sarath exhaled in relief. "Impressive reflexes," the scientist said. "Flying is flying," Hale replied with a small grin. "Space or sky, you trust the feel." Even Admiral Kex allowed a rare smile. Perhaps humans do have talents beyond bold words. With the orbit secured, Dr. Ortiz returned to the array controls. "Let's not waste the chance he just gave us," she said. "Begin charging sequence." The quantum pulse array started to hum. Deep within the ship, energy crystals absorbed power from the folded space generators. Lights across the control room brightened, then dimmed as energy focused into the main chamber. Ciora felt a low vibration through the floor, like the heartbeat of a giant. "Core at 80%, reported a human engineer. "Pulse chamber stable." Dr. Sarath checked the readings. "We will reach maximum charge in 5 minutes." Outside the ship, the red dwarf pulsed weakly, its surface trembling with faint storms. The crew worked in silence, eyes fixed on the screens. At last, Ortiz raised her hand. "Prepare to fire," Admiral Kex gave the final order. "Initiate the pulse." The ship trembled as a brilliant beam of folded energy burst from the array. It stretched across the dark void and struck the dying star. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the star shuddered violently, releasing a wave of red light. Sensors screamed with sudden energy spikes. "Gravity flux increasing," shouted a technician. "Hold position," Ortiz commanded. "Let the reaction build." The star's surface began to swirl. Dark patches brightened to orange, then white. Great streams of plasma erupted, twisting into massive arcs. Slowly, impossibly, the dim sphere grew brighter. The weak red glow shifted to a deeper, healthier crimson. "It's working," Dr. Sarath whispered. "The core is reigniting." Cheers erupted across the bridge. Human and alien crew members exchanged amazed looks. Ciora felt tears in her eyes as the once failing star came alive. But the celebration ended quickly. New alarms flashed across the screens. Energy readings spiked again far beyond expected levels. "This is not natural," Sarath said, eyes wide. "Something is feeding against us, an external force pulling energy even as we give it." Ortiz stared at the data. "It's like someone is draining the star while we charge it, almost like a machine trying to steal power." A chilling thought spread through the crew. The mysterious plague was not a random failure of physics. It was something alive, or at least active. Ciora felt the weight of that truth. "If this is a machine," she said quietly, "then it has purpose. And if it has purpose, it can be stopped." Admiral Kex tightened his grip on the command rail. "First we save this star. Then we hunt the thief." Ortiz adjusted the array to counter the drain. "Increasing pulse frequency, hold on." The ship groaned as power surged through every system. The beam intensified, cutting through the magnetic storm. On the screen, the star flared brilliantly, a blinding flash of red and gold. Sensors confirmed the result. "Core stabilized," Sarath announced. "Energy drain stopped." "The star will live." The bridge erupted in cheers once more. Crew members embraced, some laughing, some crying. Marcus Hale leaned back in the pilot seat and exhaled with relief. Ciora looked at the glowing star, its light reflecting in her eyes. "The first spark," she whispered. "Hope is alive." Dr. Ortiz joined her at the window. "We saved one," she said, her voice steady but thoughtful. "But something out there tried to stop us. We need to know why." Admiral Kex nodded firmly. "Plot a course for the nearest system showing similar decay. We will follow the pattern and find this enemy." The crew prepared for departure. Repairs were made, and data from the successful test was sent back to both Earth and the Alliance Council. Messages of celebration filled the communication channels. Across many worlds, people cheered as they learned that one dying sun now burned again. Yet beneath the joy, a quiet unease spread. If a hidden force was stealing energy from stars, then the galaxy faced not just a natural disaster, but a calculated threat. As the Dawnbringer left the revived red dwarf behind, Siora stood once more at the observation deck. The bright star shone like a promise in the endless dark, but beyond that light lay shadows, mysterious, waiting, and dangerous. She placed a hand on the cold glass and made a silent vow. The Alliance had asked humans for help, and humans had given more than skill. They had given courage. Together they would face whatever intelligence dared to drain the life from the galaxy. The first spark had been lit. The next battle would be to find the shadow that tried to snuff it out. The Dawnbringer moved through deep space like a silver arrow, carrying fresh hope and heavy questions. Behind it, the revived red dwarf burned with steady light, proof that humans and the Alliance together could save stars. Yet the data from the mission showed something darker. An outside force had tried to drain the star even as the quantum pulse array poured energy inside. Admiral Kex called the senior crew to the main conference room. The wide chamber glowed with blue lights and shifting star maps. Siora then sat beside Dr. Lena Ortiz and Dr. Sarath while pilots and engineers from both species formed a circle around the table. "We have proof," Kex began, his deep voice echoing in the room. "The plague is not a natural event. Something intelligent is feeding on our stars. We need to find its origin." Dr. Sarath opened a holographic display. During the pulse sequence, we detected a hidden signal. It came from beyond the dying star, a faint rhythm repeating every 6 seconds. It was not random. It was a code. Ortiz leaned forward. "A code means a mind. A sender, or maybe a machine." The room grew quiet. The idea of a thinking machine devouring stars filled every heart with unease. Sarath continued. "I traced the signal across Alliance space. It moves from system to system like a chain. All paths point toward the Black Rift, a sector of collapsed stars and dark energy. Few ships travel there. The place is nearly invisible to sensors." "The Black Rift," Kex repeated. "A perfect hiding place." Siora felt a chill. "If this machine lives there, we must face it. But what if it is stronger than we can imagine?" Ortiz answered with calm determination. "Then we outthink it. Machines follow patterns. Humans and our allies break them." The council back on Helenar confirmed the analysis and gave new orders. The Dawnbringer would travel to the Black Rift, locate the source of the signal, and learn what they were facing. Other Alliance fleets would wait on the edge of the sector, ready to respond if the enemy attacked. The journey was long and tense. The folded space corridors grew darker as they approached the rift. Stars thinned until only scattered lights remained. Outside the windows, clouds of black energy swirled like silent storms. Gravity waves pulled at the ship, making the hull groan. "Navigation is unstable," reported the Voran pilot. "Even folded space resists entry." Marcus Hale studied the readings with a pilot's eye. "Feels like someone built a storm to keep visitors away." Days passed without clear direction. The signal from the revived star grew stronger but more complex, like a voice speaking in a language of pulses. Dr. Sarath and Ortiz worked together to decode it. They discovered repeating patterns, maps of star clusters, streams of energy, and a strange mark shaped like a spiral. "It's a network," Ortiz explained to the crew. "Not just one machine, a web connecting stars. The spiral is a signature of control. We are not facing a single object. We are facing a system." On the 7th day, sensors finally caught a fixed point in the rift, a dark sphere the size of a small moon, floating in a sea of black energy. It emitted no light but absorbed all signals around it. Even the strongest scans returned only shadows. "The source," Sarath whispered. "The heart of the drain." Admiral Kex studied the readings. "The null core," he said, giving the enemy a name. "A machine built to consume power until nothing remains." Ortiz frowned. "But who built it?" "Perhaps a race long gone," Sarath said. "A weapon left behind, now feeding without purpose." The crew exchanged uneasy looks. An ancient machine, mindless yet relentless, was in some ways worse than a living enemy. It could not be reasoned with. The Alliance Council sent a final transmission. Their message was clear: observe if possible, attack only if necessary. But the Dawnbringer crew knew that waiting might allow the core to grow stronger. We cannot simply watch, Ciora said during a strategy meeting. Every day it feeds, more stars die. We must act, Kex folded his arms. A direct attack is suicide. The core absorbs energy. Our weapons would only make it stronger. Ortiz tapped the table, thinking, unless we overload it. The quantum pulse array gives energy, but we can change the pattern. Instead of steady power, we release a chaotic surge too fast for the core to process. It might collapse under its own hunger. Sarath's eyes widened. A paradox of energy. Feed it beyond its limits until it destroys itself. But the risk is high, Kex warned. If we fail, the core could turn the surge against us. Ciora met each of their eyes. The galaxy is already dying. We carry the only tool that can strike back. If we do nothing, we lose everything anyway. The room fell silent. Finally, Admiral Kex gave a slow nod. Prepare the array. We attack at dawn cycle. The crew worked through the artificial night. Humans and aliens moved with quiet focus, checking systems, loading energy crystals, and reinforcing shields. Marcus Hale calculated emergency escape routes while Voran engineers strengthened the ship's gravity anchors. As Ciora walked the corridors, she felt the tension of every crew member. Fear was everywhere, but so was resolve. This mission had begun as a plea for help. Now it was a fight for all life. Hours later, the Dawnbringer emerged from a cloud of black energy and faced the null core. The dark sphere hung silently before them, vast and empty, like a piece of night itself. No lights, no movement, only a deep pull that made the ship's sensors tremble. Distance 20,000 kilometers, reported the pilot. Shields at maximum. Admiral Kex gave the order. Begin overload sequence. The quantum pulse array charged with a low hum that grew into a deep vibration. Lights flickered as energy crystals reached capacity. Dr. Ortiz and Dr. Sirath worked side by side, fingers flying across glowing controls. Core at 80%, Ortiz said. Prepare for full release. Suddenly the dark sphere came alive. A circle of crimson lights opened across its surface like a giant eye. A beam of black energy shot outward, striking the Dawnbringer's shields. The ship shook violently, alarm screaming. Direct energy drain, shouted a technician. Shields collapsing. Hold position, Kex commanded. Continue the charge. Marcus Hale gritted his teeth and kept the ship steady against the pull. Gravity anchors strained, but the pilots used every thruster to stay in place. Inside the core chamber, Ortiz adjusted the pattern of the pulse. We need more chaos, she said. Increase frequency by 20%. Sarath hesitated. That may destabilize the ship. Do it, Ortiz said firmly. We don't get a second chance. The hum of the array grew into a thunderous roar. Energy readings climbed beyond safe limits. Ciora felt the deck vibrate beneath her feet. Release on my mark, Ortiz shouted. 3, 2, 1, now. A burst of blinding light exploded from the Dawnbringer. The chaotic pulse struck the null core, twisting across its surface like lightning. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the crimson lights flickered wildly. The black beam wavered and broke apart, drain decreasing. A technician cried. The core is losing control. The sphere began to ripple and crack. Pieces of dark matter peeled away, releasing flashes of trapped starlight. The machine let out a low, resonant hum that shook the entire sector, but the core fought back. A second wave of black energy surged toward the ship, stronger than before. Shields failed. Warning lights filled the bridge. Power at critical, shouted Sarath. Ortiz slammed her hand on the console. Increase pulse by another 10%. That will burn the array. Do it. The final surge of energy leapt from the ship. The beam struck the core with a deafening shock that echoed through space. The dark sphere convulsed, its surface collapsing inward. In a burst of silent light, it imploded, sending ripples of energy across the rift. Signal gone, cried a technician. The core is destroyed. Relief swept the bridge like a wave. The crew cheered, some shouting, some weeping. Ciora gripped the rail, her heart pounding. They had faced the enemy and survived. Admiral Kex allowed himself a deep breath. The first battle is won, he said. But we must check every star the core has touched. There may be others. Dr. Ortiz leaned against the console, exhausted but smiling. Machines can learn, she said softly. But so can we. Outside the windows, the black storms of the rift began to fade. Stars once hidden by darkness shone faintly through the clearing space. It was a quiet sign that the galaxy still had a chance. Ciora looked at her human allies. their faces bright with both fear and joy. The Alliance had turned to Earth in desperation, and Earth had answered with courage. The fight was not over, but for the first time the shadow of endless night no longer felt unbeatable. The Dawnbringer turned toward the edge of the rift, carrying proof that unity could break even the darkest machine. Behind them, the ruins of the Null Core drifted silently, a warning to any power that sought to steal the light of the stars. The Dawnbringer sailed away from the shattered remains of the Null Core, leaving behind a faint trail of glowing energy in the empty dark of space. Silence settled over the ship, broken only by the soft hum of the engines and the occasional chatter of crew members checking readings. The battle had been won, but Ciora Then and the rest of the crew knew the galaxy's work was far from complete. Admiral Kex stood on the bridge, his scaled hands gripping the rail. "The core is gone," he said, voice steady but thoughtful. "But we must ensure no other remnants remain. Every star it touched may still hold traces of its influence." Dr. Lena Ortiz leaned against a console, rubbing tired eyes. "We have the data," she said. "The array worked beyond expectation. We can replicate it to restore other affected stars." Ciora nodded. "And with humans in the Alliance working together, we can reach every star at risk." Marcus Hale, the human pilot who had steadied the ship during the storm near the first red dwarf, let out a long breath. "We've learned something important," he said. "Machines like that may be powerful, but they can't predict imagination, courage, and teamwork." The crew shared quiet smiles. Humans and aliens alike felt a new sense of unity. This mission, born of desperation, had shown them that even the smallest species could inspire hope across a galaxy. Before beginning the journey to other affected stars, the crew established a system for identifying and saving them. Dr. Sarath analyzed every transmission, searching for energy anomalies similar to those caused by the Null Core. Meanwhile, Ortiz adjusted the quantum pulse arrays for maximum efficiency, ensuring that each use would stabilize a star without risking the ship. The first star they restored beyond the initial test was a yellow dwarf. Weaker than the first red star but still full of potential, human engineers and Alliance scientists worked in harmony to deploy the array. When the pulse struck, the star flared, then settled into a steady glow. Cheers echoed across the ship. "It never gets old," Ortiz said, smiling at the sight. "Every star saved is a world preserved." Ciora moved through the ship, observing crew members from both species. The shared work had created friendships that would last beyond this mission. Children on Alliance worlds would one day hear stories of humans who braved the stars alongside ancient civilizations. As the Dawnbringer continued its work, news reached the Alliance Council on Helenar. Messages from humans describing the successful missions filled every corner of the coalition. Hope, once nearly extinguished, now burned bright. Leaders sent greetings of gratitude and admiration. Valan's hologram appeared on the ship's main screen. "Ciora Then, Dr. Ortiz, Admiral Kex, and all aboard the Dawnbringer," he said. "The Alliance thanks you. Humanity has proven its courage and wisdom. You have saved countless lives and rekindled hope where darkness ruled. We invite Earth to join our council as an equal partner in the galaxy." Ciora felt her heart swell. "We will accept," she said softly. "Not for honor, but to continue working together to protect life." Ortiz's eyes sparkled. "We didn't just save stars," she said. "We showed the galaxy what humans can do when they act together with allies. We proved that courage and creativity matter, sometimes more than raw power." Kex's voice was firm. "The Alliance has a lot to learn from Earth, and Earth has much to learn from the Alliance. Together we are stronger." As they traveled to other affected systems, the crew encountered more challenges. One star showed unusual magnetic storms that threatened the ship. Another system had unstable planets that required careful calculations to avoid collapse. In each case, humans and aliens worked side by side, combining instinct, calculation, and creativity to save what they could. Every success strengthened the bond between species. Messages of hope spread across the galaxy. Systems that had been abandoned due to fear of the plague were now being repopulated. Trade resumed between worlds, and families returned to planets that had been declared lost. Yet even as victories multiplied, Ciora remembered the lessons of the Null Core. The galaxy could not rely on a single species or a single solution. Unity, courage, and willingness to act were now the true shields of life. During one quiet moment, Ortiz joined Ciora on the observation deck. They looked out at a cluster of stars, some bright, some still recovering from the core's drain. "Do you ever think we will face something like that again?" Ciora asked. Ortiz shook her head slowly. "Perhaps, but now we know we are not powerless. We can face even the darkest threats if we work together." Ciora smiled. "And humanity will be ready alongside the Alliance." Back on Helenar, the Council held a celebration. Representatives of all 12 civilizations acknowledged the bravery of the human species. Music and lights filled the grand halls. Holographic images of restored stars and thriving planets decorated the walls. Delegates shared stories of humans' bold decisions, clever solutions, and unwavering spirit. A speech from Valen summed up the moment. "We once believed that the survival of the Alliance depended solely on our wisdom and power," he said. "But today we see that even the youngest species can teach us courage. Humans have reminded us that hope is stronger than fear, and that unity can overcome even the greatest darkness." In the weeks that followed, the Dawnbringer completed its mission. Every star affected by the null core had been stabilized. Reports confirmed that life on countless worlds could continue. Colonies rebuilt cities, farms flourished, and trade routes reopened. Across the galaxy, beings of every species spoke of humans not as fragile newcomers, but as equals and partners. Ciora watched as the Dawnbringer returned to Earth's orbit. She felt a deep sense of accomplishment. The mission had been perilous, the enemy formidable, but courage and collaboration had won. Humans had proven that even in the face of nearly impossible odds, life could endure. Ortiz stood beside her, looking at the planet below. "This is just the beginning," she said. "We have saved stars, but the galaxy is vast. There will always be challenges, but now we know we are never alone." Marcus Hale joined them, leaning against the rail. "We've done what no one expected. And we've done it together. That's the real victory," Ciora nodded. "The Alliance asked for help," humanity answered. "And in doing so, we proved that life itself can shine brighter than any darkness." As the sun rose over Earth, light spilled across oceans and mountains. Ciora thought of the stars they had saved, the worlds that would thrive, and the countless beings who now had a future because of courage, creativity, and unity. Dr. Sarath entered, carrying the final reports from the restored systems. "All affected worlds show stabilization," the scientist said. "Life is returning. The null core is gone. The galaxy can breathe again." Ciora smiled, feeling the weight of responsibility ease. "We gave them hope," she said. "And hope is the greatest gift of all." Ortiz looked at her team, humans and aliens together, their faces shining with relief and pride. "Remember this," she said softly. "No matter how dark the universe seems, courage and cooperation can light the way. That is the legacy we leave behind." The Dawnbringer descended slowly to a quiet field on Earth, landing among both human and alien observers. Children ran toward the ship, waving hands and laughing. Scientists and diplomats approached, eager to learn and celebrate. Everywhere life felt renewed. Ciora stepped onto the ground, feeling Earth beneath her feet. She glanced up at the sky, where countless stars now burned brightly. "We have done something incredible," she said. Admiral Kex nodded. "And we will continue. Humanity and the Alliance together can protect this galaxy, no matter what comes next." As celebrations continued, Ciora looked at the people around her, humans, aliens, and leaders alike, and realized the truth of the journey. It had not been the most advanced technology, nor the largest fleets that had saved the galaxy. It had been determination, courage, and the willingness to act when all hope seemed lost. And for the first time in many cycles, the stars felt alive again, not just as burning spheres of energy, but as beacons of hope. The galaxy had been reminded that even in the face of the darkest threats, life, ingenuity, and courage could prevail. The humans had shown the universe that when all hope was lost, a single species willing to rise could light the way for countless others. And in that light, civilizations united, darkness faded, and the galaxy took its first steady breath in a long time. Ciora looked up at the sky one last time before turning to join her allies. She knew that whatever came next, the universe now had a new promise. Life, hope, and courage would always find a way. The stars shone brightly. The galaxy was alive, and humanity had left its mark.